Hey, what's going on, guys? This is CJ here. Back for another movie review. This time I'm going to be talking about a new movie just dropping on Amazon Prime called 7500. And it stars Jordan Gordon-Levitt, and it is directed by Patrick Volrath. This is a very interesting movie, and this is kind of the type of film that has me split, so to speak. On one hand, you have a movie that has a very interesting premise. The movie is mainly about Tobias Ellis. This is Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character. And he's a co-pilot that is flying, he's basically going to be flying to Paris from Berlin and such. Movie opens typical, he's, getting on the plane and such. And as the plane is taking off, it gets in the air, terrorists end up taking over, and they try to get into the cockpit. Tobias pushes them out, manages to make sure they don't get into the cockpit. He locks the door and stuff. And what you end up getting is a movie that isn't typical of what you see of a movie like this. I say that because most movies, with the exception of United 93, which was the 9/11 movie, most movies that deal with how should I say, the bad guys and such, there's always the hero that jumps in, saves the day. There might be a couple of moments of something bad went wrong and stuff and whatever, but it's always done in this very just kind of high fantasy way. And what I appreciate about this movie is that Tobias is just a regular person, so he's dealing with it with how a regular person would deal with it. His other pilot is down, so he has to kind of take over. And between him trying to make sure that the plane is okay and he can land it, he has to deal with the terrorists outside of the cockpit and the rest of the plane. And what's interesting about this film is that you get all this from his point of view. At no point in time do you get typical of this movie where you see outside the cockpit and you're seeing random passengers and their point of view of all this. This is all from his point of view. He's seeing the camera outside the cockpit and seeing what the terrorists are doing, but at no point in time is the camera focused on anybody. It's focused on him and him alone. And when I think why initially this premise works is because we're seeing all of his emotions, and Levitt does a really good job of showing his range of emotions, of just how his character is grappling with the pressure of the situation and stuff. He's the guy that has to make the tough decisions and stuff. A terrorist at one point has a knife to one of the passengers' throats and stuff, and he's like, let me in the cockpit or I'm gonna slit his throat. And he has to kind of talk the terrorist down from doing it, and trying to talk him down while also still keeping his mantra of not negotiating and such. And it does cause for a lot of very tense moments, and it works because, again, you're seeing his emotion of just frustration and rage and anger and sadness and just all that stuff, and it works. Levitt does a really good job of conveying all those emotions and stuff, and the aspect of seeing that from his point of view, and they're not cutting to everybody else and stuff, it makes you really hyper focus on this character and how he thinks and how he goes through his whole thought process and stuff. That being said, the downside to this movie is that you have a film that, one, giving us a prototypical Muslim terrorist and stuff. And the thing of it is, when you have a film like this, you kind of ask yourself, they could have did more with these terrorists at least. Not in a way of make me, feel profound sadness for them and stuff, but give them some sort of character so maybe we can understand, not necessarily understand their point of why they're doing it of course we know why they're doing it, but like show what's their mentality with the situation, how they grappling it, because we really don't know what's going through their mind and how they're grappling with it on their end. And then when the movie at one point, and this is kind of the downside of the movie, when it gets to the third act, it stumbles because throughout the whole movie you have Tobias having this, he's trying to connect with one of the terrorists. He's like the youngest out of this whole terrorist group. There's only two of them. He's kind of trying to have a connection with them, and then when the movie tries to show him having that connection with them, it really doesn't work to me. And it just comes across very cliche, you know. And if you've seen this kind of movie before, you kind of know where it's going to end off at and stuff. And it's kind of a shame because you wish that the movie could have really stuck the landing on this. And I think that's the downside of this movie, is that it had a really good premise. Sorry, and it really just didn't stick the landing like it could. And it's prototypical of the kind of movie that we see and stuff. So by the end, you're not really giving two craps about the bad guys. And maybe that was the aim, but you don't get much in the way of any sort of meat on the bone, so to speak, for these terrorists. It's just they're terrorists and that's it. They're the bad guys and that's it. There's nothing interesting about them. There's no like, what's their point of view? Nothing. And when the movie does try to shoehorn this whole subplot of understanding the young terrorist that he's been trying to have a connection with, you really don't end up caring. And that's a shame, because like I said, while you care about Tobias and his plight and him trying to figure out all these things and stuff, this connection that he has with this young terrorist and stuff, you don't really care much for it, especially when it gets down to the end. And like I said, it's a shame, and because it kind of, that everything that happens in the third act drops the movie down to where you just don't care anymore. You were interested, and then it just nosedives and stuff, and you just end up not caring. So yeah, overall, like I said, the movie is alright. If I had to give it anything, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. So it's on Amazon Prime. If you can definitely check it out, see what it's about and stuff. And yeah, that's about it. 6 out of 10. Catch you guys later. Peace.